Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're tackling something we all deal with. We're going to decode the whole architecture of anxiety and really figure out exactly why we experience fear. Okay, so let's dive right into this. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder why we're so instinctively afraid of things? Like, why do we completely freeze up at the mere thought of heights, or get the creeps in pitch darkness, or just agonize over the possibility of failing, usually way, way before any actual danger even shows up? Let's do a quick mental exercise. Picture yourself standing right at the edge of a towering, super steep cliff. Before you even take a step, what happens? Your heart just starts pounding, right? Your hands get all sweaty, your muscles completely tense up. Literally nothing has happened yet, but your body is already reacting like danger is actively attacking you. And this visceral, physical reaction proves something absolutely crucial. Fear is an ancient, hardwired survival system. To really wrap our heads around how this whole system works, we're going to take a quick evolutionary journey today. First, we'll look at the evolution of fear, then surviving ancient physical dangers, followed by social survival, modern psychological fears, and finally, the actual truth about fear. So, moving into section 1, the evolution of fear, which is basically your body's ultimate survival system. To really understand our modern brains, we kind of have to rewind the clock a bit. Look, long before all our modern comforts, early humans lived in a seriously hostile world. And fear? Well, fear is just a biological survival mechanism that evolved to detect threats and trigger super rapid reactions. Think about it. The ancestors who reacted the fastest to danger, whether that was a predator, starvation, disease, whatever, those were the ones who actually survived to pass on their genes. And the result of that whole evolutionary lottery, you and I inherited these incredibly sensitive modern brains that are spectacularly good at detecting threats. Actually, sometimes they're a little too good. All right, on to section 2, surviving ancient physical dangers, or what we can call our primitive instincts. So, from the moment we're born, through our reproductive years, and all the way to our average life expectancy, the fear of death is hands down the deepest, most persistent fear we carry. Because your brain's number one job is just to keep you alive. Literally everything we do is influenced by this background awareness that our lives will eventually end. And what's really fascinating here is that psychologists actually believe a lot of our everyday anxieties, fear of illness, flying, dangerous accidents, they're really just disguised forms of this ultimate death anxiety, sort of mapped out across our entire lives. And this deeply rooted drive leads us to some very specific physical fears. Take acrophobia, for example, the extreme fear of heights. This evolved for a really simple reason. Falling was a massive historical cause of death. But get this, studies actually show that even babies display this innate caution around visual drop-offs. They don't even have to be taught to be careful, which totally proves that the fear of heights isn't learned. It's a biological trigger built directly into our hardware. And then, of course, there's the darkness. There's this massive myth that we're afraid of the darkness itself. But the reality? We're actually afraid of what the darkness is hiding. Thousands of years ago, the night genuinely concealed real predators and enemies. And because the human brain absolutely despises uncertainty, when we can't see what's out there, our imagination just goes into overdrive, automatically filling that dark void with potential threats. So our brains come fully loaded with these ancient protections optimized to keep us safe from hidden dangers. For instance, our visual cortex processes the shapes of snakes and spiders remarkably fast, way faster than it processes harmless objects. And pain? Oh, pain acts as an incredibly effective warning system. In fact, there are these rare medical conditions where people are literally born without the ability to feel pain. And instead of being some cool superpower, it actually leads to severe, unknowingly inflicted injuries. Fearing pain is exactly what stops us from accidentally destroying our own bodies. That brings us to section 3, social survival and rejection, entering the tribal world. Now, not all of our fears come from sharp teeth or steep cliffs, right? Some of them stem from ancient tribal dynamics. Thousands of years ago, human survival depended entirely on the tribe. We survived through cooperation, which meant being isolated was basically a death sentence. And this brilliantly illustrates why social rejection activates the exact same brain regions that are involved in physical pain. Your brain literally experiences the feeling of being rejected as a physical wound. Because in evolutionary terms, being cast out was just as deadly as facing a predator all by yourself. Which brings us to a really fascinating concept, social evaluation. Basically, this is the process of being judged by a group, which your brain instantly interprets as a direct threat to your social status and acceptance. And guess what? This is the core reason why so many people famously fear public speaking even more than they fear death. Standing up there before a staring crowd exposes you to judgment, and that triggers this massive ancient alarm system against tribal exclusion. Your heart rate spikes, your body preps for danger, even when there's obviously no physical threat in the room. Moving on to Section 4, Modern Psychological Fears, Dealing with the Abstract Mind. So now we're transitioning into the really complex, abstract anxieties created by our advanced modern brains. Just take the fear of the unknown. Think about starting a new job, entering a new relationship, moving to a totally new city, or going through any major life change. Humans intensely crave predictability, so when outcomes are uncertain, the brain basically treats this everyday uncertainty almost exactly like a physical threat. It ramps up your anxiety simply because it can't predict the final outcome and wants to prepare for every single possibility. And then, of course, we have the heavy hitters, failure and loss. The fear of failure threatens our deeply valued sense of competence, while the fear of loss threatens our powerful emotional attachments to the people we care about. Your brain just loves to exaggerate a simple mistake into this personal, permanent disaster. But remember this, highly successful people experience this exact same fear. The difference isn't that they don't feel it, it's that they choose to act despite that feeling. Because ultimately, our brains are just relentless prediction machines. First off, unlike other animals, humans can actually imagine events that haven't even happened yet. Next, the brain desperately attempts to plan and prepare for those hypothetical events. And finally, the imagination just generates endless worry over completely non-existent threats. It's kind of wild, but our unique human ability to build whole civilizations and plan for the future is the exact same mechanism that tortures us with those endless what-if scenarios at 2 in the morning. Which leads us to our final section, Section 5, The Truth About Fear. Time for a paradigm shift. All right, it is time to completely reframe how we process anxiety. Most people go through life thinking fear is the enemy. But here's the secret. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is simply information. Your fear is just your brain's ancient, hardwired attempt to keep you safe. The real problem only pops up when that fear becomes disconnected from reality. So the goal here shouldn't be to completely eliminate fear. That's impossible anyway. The goal is to understand it, decode the information it's giving you, and learn when you should listen to it and when you just need to move beyond it. There's a really powerful realization here. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear. Every single brave person you have ever admired, every successful person you've ever looked up to, they felt fear too. Their hearts raced, their palms sweated, the whole 9 yards. The difference is simply that they chose to step forward anyway. They recognized that biological alarm bell going off, but they absolutely refused to let it dictate their final decision. So to wrap things up today, I want to leave you with a really introspective question to chew on. How many of your absolute worst fears from 5 years ago actually ended up happening? For most of us, the answer is very few, if literally any at all. Our imagined threats so rarely come true. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this evolutionary journey helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe for more insights, and definitely let me know what fascinating topic we should dive into next.